Okay, so it's all about celebrating the incredible work of football fans during coronavirus, COVID-19 and beyond. What about this from Scotland? So we have put together a survey working with the Scottish Football Supporters Association, and we can today reveal that Scottish football fans together, when you add up all their donations, have donated more than £1 million to keep their clubs alive during COVID-19 and of course beyond. Delighted to say the chair of the SFSA joining us on the programme now, Andy Smith. Andy, thank you so much for your time. What an endeavour and what a commitment for Scottish fans to say we care so much about our clubs that we're going in there with the cold hard cash. If that's what needed, that's what we've got to do. And that shows you the pride and the passion they have for their clubs and of course for their communities.
Do you know, that's absolutely right. And what makes it really interesting to us is we didn't know that figure until we got in touch with all the clubs and asked them. In the headlines recently in football in Scotland, and to be fair, we've been found wanting because, like old Mother Hubbard's cupboard, there's nothing in it. When we hit something like COVID, our game has been put into peril. But a really, really important guy recently has been a guy called James Anderson, who, along with some colleagues, some known and some still who don't want us to know who they are, have put in between 4 and 5 million at the top end. And that kind of money's bailed all the 42 clubs up here out in many ways, particularly the smaller community clubs. And that's been the headlines, and we've all heard about that. But then when you speak to the clubs, you find that at grassroots level, we've had fans, everything from washing cars to give money to, like Partick Thistle had funds of 125,000 from their fans within a week. It's amazing what fans will do to help their clubs, not because they think about the big game, but they love their clubs. And thank you, James Anderson, but actually there are James Andersons in every club just now doing their bit. And to be fair, some clubs almost don't deserve them.
I think football fans, of course, you only need to look at the mainstream media sort of coverage of and people's perceptions about what football fans are, what they're like, what they care about. But actually, something like this goes to show, and you mentioned, the car washes to keep the club afloat. The little old ladies making a donation, the kids handing over their pocket money because they care so much. And that's about positivity, because that's about the social side of things. It's about the community side of things, as well as the sporting side of things, which, as we all know as football fans, can go either way on any given Saturday.
Yeah, one thing that you find when you get involved in a fans organisation is we're never going to agree about everything, because we support teams who play against each other and there's a winner and loser. But what football fans all do share, we share a couple of things. We want everything to be fair, and we want it to be right and decent. And that's when the people step up. The pandemic has been horrific. Yeah, it's shown issues in football and how football funds itself, but the pandemic has been horrific. It's threatened clubs because it's a nuclear winter. And we've been through 12, 16 weeks of nuclear winter, and we can see a depression, not a recession, a real depression coming. And that's a huge issue. But what do fans do? Well, I've been amazed. We've been buying season tickets up here for the big clubs, for the small clubs, without even knowing when the season's going to start. Fans said last year, okay, we missed 8 or 10 games, keep the money. I don't want the money, I want the club to survive. And that's grassroots up. We care. And one thing that's great about your program is you're going to be sharing this, and this will give ideas to other people to say, what can I do to help my local club? And that's fantastic.
Do you think it's almost time for a little bit of a reset as the game, both in England and Scotland, changed with the introduction of the Premiership and the Premier League as well? Then it was very much about the individual clubs making decisions that was based on big corporate sponsors, potential overseas investment. And maybe a little reminder through actions like this and through coronavirus that football fans are the very beating heart of what those clubs do, and also how they are represented as well. And maybe an argument and a little nudge to those clubs to say, hey, remember what it is that you're about. You're a local sporting club for your local area.
Every club started as a small community club, almost a bunch of guys playing on a back green with jumpers for goalposts. That's where we came from. Now, we talk about the Barcelonas and all the big clubs, but they all started humbly. But they do forget it, and they forget it because They have other issues. They've got fiduciary duty to their boards. They've got huge numbers just to compete. But yes, every club is a community, and they forget it at their peril. And one of the things that's really good about what we've seen across Scotland is some of the clubs who aren't even getting money from the likes of James Anderson. A couple of teams like Spartans in Edinburgh and Cumbernauld Colts in the West. They're doing food parcels. They're doing amazing work. And they're not even in our top leagues, but they are community clubs who understand their communities and have seen the problems. They're saying, do you know what? While we're not playing football, we can do stuff. So yes, football fans, we're the core of the earth. We don't, as I said, we don't have to agree with each other, but we all actually say, how can I help my club? And hence, I love your program, because we need more people to think, what can I do to help us get through, not just till now, but for the next 2 or 3 years, because it's going to be tough.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, that, isn't it? And we're getting a little bit JFK with this one, about not what you can do for the country can do for you, but for what you can do for your country. But you know, when people think about football fans, they think it's us or it's nobody. But actually, what you've discussed and described there is somebody saying, well, if we can use the football club as the means to which we can gather a conversation, or through a hook through which we can get people through the door to lend their support, then actually that shows the value of the football club beyond anything you would ever sell to an advertiser or selling TV rights. It's about that sense of community, a sense that a football club can be, if it chooses, the heart of its community, and we should underestimate that at our perils.
Again, one of the non-league clubs I mentioned earlier, a couple of years ago, started feeding kids on a Friday afternoon. They called it footy. Come along, play football, and we'll feed you. This is in a deprived area where they weren't getting all getting food at homes. The same club were helping young mothers in breastfeeding. Clubs, and it's not just male game, it's the female game, it's the walking game, it's the kids game. Clubs are a direct route into hearts of communities. They can be a real power for good. And what happens is, when you help a community, the community then rallies around and helps you. So you're right. Clubs can't forget where they've come from, because if they do forget where they've come from, then they've lost their community, and all they'll end up with is the prawn sandwich brigade, and that's a different world.
More than £1 million is an incredible figure in a short space of time. What does it say, do you think, Andy, about the pride and the passion that football fans have in their local clubs, and with that, their local communities?
I think it just cements it. I think we've managed to get £1 million on our A4 sheet. I think it's more. I think it will be more. I think we're underestimating. Well, what hasn't happened, although we've been trying it in our newsletter, but it doesn't go to every fan, because we're still always looking. Scottish Football Supporters Association are looking for members, because we are, in effect, an independent union of fans. And what we're doing, and have been doing, and we welcome stuff like this, we're saying, do you know what? We won't just shout at the authorities if we don't agree what they're doing. We will spread good news, we'll spread good ideas, we'll help each of us do what they can to help our own clubs. Because as I've said earlier in this talk, we're only as good as our weakest link. We really are. And the football community has to hold together to get through what are really difficult times. And where we are we're not at the low point yet. The low point is yet to come.
Yeah, more challenges, absolutely. And let's hope that football clubs, and indeed football fans, can help rise to the occasion. Andy, an absolute pleasure to get you on the programme. Chair of the Scottish Football Supporters Association, £1 million, once again proving that football is, for these fans, more than just a game. And we'll be celebrating this throughout the course of the week. Andy, thank you for your time. We'll speak again, I'm sure, very soon.
You're welcome.